Hello, my friend. Today I'm going to talk to you about 5 must-know signs of emotional abuse. These are signs that are great tip-offs to let you know if you're in an emotionally abusive situation. So most people who are in an abusive situation don't know for sure if they're in an abusive situation or not. It takes a while for them to piece together what's happening because emotional abuse is so insidious. It starts slow. It's like the old analogy with the frogs in a pot of water. If you put them in a pot of cold water and you turn up the heat, the water gets so hot slowly, they don't notice what's happening, so they don't jump out. But if you put a frog in hot water right away, it tries to jump out immediately. That's the way it is with people who are in abusive situations. It's so hard to recognize what the reality is. And when you do recognize that something is wrong, it's hard to piece together exactly what it is. So here come 5 must-know signs of emotional abuse that can help you understand what emotional abuse is, what it looks like, and help you decide whether or not you might be experiencing emotional abuse. Point number 1, nothing you ever do is good enough. There's no winning. You may cook, clean, the whole house is spotless. You've got the kids at the table doing their homework. You've made a fabulous dinner. The house smells great. You've got dessert in the oven with it. Favorite dinner that they love, and when they walk in the door, rather than noticing all of that wonderful stuff that's been done, they point out, hey, you hung the shirts on the wrong hanger again. No recognition of all the wonderful stuff you've done, no appreciation for it, no thank you for it. Instead, just you hung those shirts up on the wrong hanger. Can you relate to that? Here's another thing that will happen. You do exactly what they're telling you you need to do for the relationship to be good, or for them to be happy, or for things to work out, or whatever it is. You do exactly what they tell you that you need to be doing. They tell you later you did it wrong, or you didn't do it long enough. No matter what you do, it will never be good enough for them. I know of a woman, this was a lady that I counseled for a while and coached through some of her situation. She would wake up at 5 in the morning to make breakfast for her husband and take one of their children to a religious study in the morning. He woke up around 6 a.m. and he thought it was really lame that by the time he woke up, his eggs were cold. He thought she ought to come home in between dropping her daughter off and going to the gym to make his eggs so that they were warm at that time. Now, this is a lady who kept a wonderful, beautifully appointed home clean, who cooked, who did the business payroll for her husband, who catered to his every whim and his every need. But you see, nothing was ever good enough for him. The second sign that you're being emotionally abused, you always feel like you're walking on eggshells. Can you relate to that? You never know what version of your partner is going to show up. Sometimes they're sweet and loving, and they expect you to be sweet and loving. But sometimes they're screaming in your face, raging at you. You never know who's going to show up. When you hear the car coming home, pulling into the garage, you tense up. And you feel like you have to walk on eggshells and do everything perfectly, or you're going to get screamed at. It kind of goes back to the first point of nothing's ever good enough. And because nothing's ever good enough, you know that there's a likelihood that you're going to be in trouble for something. You just never know what it is. The third must-know sign of emotional abuse, you're being controlled in subtle ways. Now, some abusers are very controlling in overt ways. It's pretty easy to tell that you're being controlled. Other times it's very subtle. It starts by telling you, I don't like it when you do your hair like that. Or, you really should do something like this. Or, you make the eggs wrong. Little comments like this that undercut the way that you do things, the way you think about things. They show disapproval for the decisions you make and tell you how wrong you are for making those decisions. I don't like it when you talk to that friend, or you shouldn't hang out with those people because they're bad in this way. Abusers need control to feel good about themselves. I go into this in depth in our online abuse recovery program called Stop Emotional Abuse. It's a complete online recovery program to help you go from recognizing emotional abuse to creating healthy, loving dynamics and relationships and healing from past abuse to find the peace, freedom, happiness, and joy that you deserve. So the bully needs that control. And one of the things that they also need to continue that control is for you to be isolated from your family, your friends, your peers, or other people who can give you objective insight as to what this situation is. The abuser loves to cut you off from support, from family, from friends, from resources, and they'll do everything they can to control you and your decisions so that they can get you to do what they want you to do. The fourth must-know sign of emotional abuse is that your partner changes the story so often or in such a way that you start to doubt your recollection of the events and you start to wonder if you're going crazy. You wonder if you've stopped remembering things correctly. You wonder why you can't remember the details. You wonder why your partner recalls something so differently than you recall it. We call this gaslighting and crazy making. Gaslighting is when somebody changes the story for their benefit and makes you think you're crazy for remembering the correct version. I talk about gaslighting in a previous video, and I go into 5 things you can do to help protect yourself against that gaslighting. Check that one out. One certain sign that you're being emotionally abused is that they will say things like, "No, it didn't happen like that," or "I never said that," or "You're so paranoid, she's just a friend." And that's after you've found real proof that there's something more going on than that. They may say phrases like, "No one likes you," or "Quit being so dramatic," or "You're trying to have a reasonable conversation. You're calm. You're just trying to talk with them about something that's bothering you." And they'll say, "I'm not going to argue about it." You weren't arguing. Or they'll say something like, "You're always so combative." You're always so combative. You start to go crazy wondering why your recollection of things is so different than their recollection of things. These are clear indicators, my friends, of emotional abuse, changing the story, changing the version of the events. The fifth must-know sign of emotional abuse, it was so good in the beginning. Do you remember back to the beginning of your relationship, how euphoric the high was, how special you felt when that person called you, how they told you you're the most beautiful woman in the world, how they told you they'd never met somebody like you, how they told you you were different from all the others, and how you made them feel so special? Do you remember that? What happened? That, my friends, is what we call love bombing. See, it's so good in the beginning because the abuser hands out love and affection just the same way that a drug dealer hands out drugs. And they know that once you're hooked on that, you'll want more of it. Once you're hooked on that love bombing drug and that euphoric high, the abuser knows that they can transition to that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They can transition over into that person who is complaining all the time, who is abusive, and that you will take it hoping sometime to get back to that euphoric high. And so now and again, they'll drop just little crumbs to help you feel like maybe that old person is coming back, to make you think there's hope in the relationship. That's called intermittent reinforcement. You can read more about that on our website, stopemotionalabuse.net. And with that intermittent reinforcement, you get so excited thinking the old them is coming back and you want to race toward them. And so you'll do anything it takes to get that, including enduring more abuse. To make it really clear, the fifth must-know sign of emotional abuse is that love bombing and intermittent reinforcement. It was so good in the beginning, and then once they had you hooked, they dole out their approval, their love, and that euphoric high in little doses to get you to do whatever they want and to get you to hold on. And they know that they can hold that over your head to keep you coming back for more. I'm going to give you one bonus sign of emotional abuse, and that is you know something is wrong in your gut, but you just can't put your finger on it. If you know there's something wrong in your relationship and you can't describe it, you can't explain it, you have trouble talking to other people about it, you can't quite figure it out in your mind, but in your gut you know something is wrong in the relationship, that's a must-know sign of emotional abuse. Pay attention to what your gut is telling you. Get educated on emotional abuse. If you'd like help recognizing and dealing with emotional abuse, visit our website at stopemotionalabuse.net. In the description box below is a link for our abuse recovery guide. Sign up there to receive it, immediate access to it, so that you know how you can start to create loving, healthy relationships today. And you can get answers as to why does my partner do this? And you can start to move toward the peace and freedom and happiness and clarity in your life that you deserve. Click the bell button below to always get notified of future videos and to stay up to date on helpful tips of how to recognize and deal with emotional abuse.